I'm at an interesting point. I've noticed myself observing more. Not like observing, well, maybe I'm thinking less, so I have more space. That's not what I wanted to talk about. But I've noticed myself, like, I'm sitting here watching Age of Easy Money, full documentary. It's like a frontline thing about the economy, you know? And I just watched like a news update about like the Dow. And then last night I watched like a video on some like this police interrogation of this racist white woman who murdered a black mother and left her children abandoned. Well, no, her children are taken in by her grandmother. Her name is AJ. Ajike specifically. So that's a moment for Ajike. I can't take that story lightly. But I think for a while, like when I was in high school, I was very politically active and engaged, mentally and emotionally, and I incorporated it into my art as well. Like I would write poetry about it. I would incorporate it into my like painting pieces and things like that. But I was able to take in the stuff from the world around me, all of like the horrors and the traumas and like just like the reality of the world that I was living in. And like I guess I wasn't how I feel like I was a little bit frantic. It was very like wow 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 wow. And it kind of like revolutionized me. It got me going. It was very much like there was a lot of a lot. There was a lot. I was like I was also very much unable to keep up with like my studies in school and struggling with like classes and balancing different aspects of my life. But I was able to like I don't know. There was like a back and forth between the thing like I just had to like I not had to, but I did. Surrender. I don't know. I was just struggling, and so I leaned really hard into something else, into other things. I leaned hard into my art and discovering those things. But I also was at the same time like this was right when like the Black Lives Matter movement like started for real in like 2014, 2016. And then that kind of like took me into college where I was still very rear and ready to go, but and like very much involved and engaged in like extracurriculars is what they would call them. But in reality, they were my curriculars. That's what the fuck I was doing. Everything else at college was was a side gig, which is a joke. Just like, but that's kind of what it felt like sometimes. No, I was really into like my theater studies, but more like the theater than the studies. But also like my classrooms were in some situations toxic and like violent spaces as a black person, and so processing the reality of like being a black person, what that means and what that feels like, and how I am. And for reference, I went to PWIs my whole experience. And one of them was like a rural PWI, and the other one was an urban PWI. Well, I guess like my youth was rural, and then my college experience was in a city. But my discovery of what it feels like to inhabit this space as like a queer black person was a bit tumultuous, but I feel like when I was in high school I like leaned into it and I could well, not even lean into it. I think what it probably was that I could, or I had to, for the first time, really think about myself in context of how other people were perceiving me and how, like, what role I had to take. I was having nightmares about getting, like, shot for being, like, accused of shoplifting or something. Like, somebody, like, accuses me of shoplifting and I didn't do it, but then they call the police and then they come and it's an altercation or blah blah blah. You know, like, I had nightmares about shit like that. And so, like, coming to terms with all of that, it very much had to do with, like, the things I was processing at the time. Like, this is when like, right after Tamir Rice had been brutally murdered, you know, and starting to realize that, like, oh, being black is, like, dangerous, you know, and that means that I need to be political. You know, like, I can't just be out here, you know. I have an opinion on this because it's my life that's at risk, and my well-being that's at risk. And I think that, like, that became very exhausting. Like, at first it was like, it was something that I could lean into, and, like, it revolutionized me, it energized me, it mobilized me, it inspired me, and it scared me. But all of that, like, I don't think I, like, knew me enough without, no, I guess I knew me at the time, but a lot has changed since then. So there was, like, a period in my life where, like, I shut that shit down. For real. And that period was from 2020, Black Lives Matter. I guess that's, like, an era, 2014 to 2020. And then Black Lives Matter kicked off for real. After the pandemic began. And so that was, like, the summer of 2020, and people was in the streets protesting. And I was in the streets protesting. And I had a very disappointing and honestly traumatic experience with some white people I know, friends, associates. Because the thing is, if I'm being honest, they're white people. They don't fucking know. They didn't know. So to say, I don't know. So then figuring out, like, friends, associates, blah, blah, blah. For sure, I took distance. And for sure, I don't think I would say friends at this point. But I would have loved. There's an accountability aspect to that, where it's like, white people are going to fuck up. You know what I'm saying? So, and that, like, that includes, like, if you're friends with white people, they're going to fuck up. So then it's like, where's the line for grace? Where's the line for leeway? Where's the line for blah, blah, blah? But because of the times and because of the shit that was happening and because of the stakes at the moment, the line was too, there wasn't a lot of leeway to be given at that moment in time. And so one strike, you're out at that. So that's where it was for me. But it had to do with being abandoned at a protest. And I stopped going. I was no longer in them streets. I was inside. And I was an inside comrade. That was very important, I think. These past 4 years, I was a bit of an inside comrade. And I think I'd been, like, kind of, like, struggling with, like, not really guilt. It was a little tinge of guilt. But it wasn't pervasive because my well-being is primary here. You know? You cannot have a revolution that runs its people into the ground. That's not a functional revolution. That is actually just another, that's a symptom of the original ailment. Okay, that means we haven't fixed anything if people are still running themselves into the ground, and if people are still not prioritizing themselves and their well-being. So I needed to live by that first. There's a lot of other stuff going on in terms of like health and stuff, and just general well-being, and like community, and just changes in my life, where, and like a lack of stability, if I'm being honest, like financial stability, housing stability, where it was like I actually need to dial it all the way back. These things are still important to me, so I'm going to do what I can from where I'm at. You know, I was an online warrior for a little bit. And I still am, bro. Like, social media can serve a great purpose if we utilize it with attention. And social media, keyword media. This is our chance to utilize our voices to distribute information, because there is no free press. But I digress. Bars. But I think but I needed to tend to myself. I needed to take care of myself. My dog's right here, by the way. Hi, Vanny. This is her. Say hi to the camera, baby. Hi. She did a good job. Boing, boing. Yeah, I just withdrew. But it was like 4 years of like withdrawal and like reading, you know, to learning, listening, shutting the fuck up, because that's important. Like, I was very vocal for like a long time. And then I literally remember it was like 2020, and I was like, I think something's wrong with my throat. Oh, come on, Blue. I think something's wrong with my throat chakra. Like, my throat chakra is blocked or something, blah, blah, blah. Because I was not using my voice. And the thing is, that's true. But I was trying so hard to fix it. And it was like, well, maybe I just need to use my voice more. Maybe I just need to blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, bro, you just need to let that shit sit. Because in reality, throat chakra blockages wasn't just about me using my voice, about like big shit. That had to do with little shit in my life. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to be able to advocate for the people in a good and effective way if I can't advocate for my own self in my own personal relationships? You know, if I, you know, how I had mentioned, like, I was like instability in my relationships, instability in my community, in my finances, in my blah blah blah. Like, if I cannot get some structure from my own self, if I can't take care of myself, you know, and this isn't hyper individualism, nothing. That's not what I'm saying, because my community is a massive factor in all of this. Cooper, you got something to say? Because you can join. Okay. My community is a massive factor in all of this. In every aspect, in my relationships. And so learning how to navigate actually shutting the fuck up for a little bit, and like actually withdrawing, actually just being hurt, you know, and going home. And not trying to help nobody else right now. And I was trying to help a lot of other people, but I still needed to dial it back. It was like, it allowed me to find ways that I can nurture myself. It also allowed me to find ways that I can allow other people to nurture me, which is a massive part of community. Because what the fuck is community if you're nurturing other people but they're not pouring back into you? That's a one-way street, and that's actually what? Paternalistic. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for mutualistic. We're looking for reciprocal relationships and a sustainable community structure. And so me always being on 10 and going and speaking and blah blah blah, hosting events and leading facilitations and creating and speaking and blah 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 blah, protesting, all of that, when I had nothing going on for myself and nobody I felt like I could rely on, or like really, like I didn't really know how to rely on people or be honest with people or trust people or be supported by people. is just a one-way street to exactly where I ended up, which was very exhausted. There was an end of the line, and that's why I meant like my leeway with